Sign number 1. You remember the little things. It's a quiet kind of sharpness, the kind that shows up not in big speeches, but in small gestures. You remember the name of your neighbor's dog. You still know your spouse's favorite dessert, and you can recall your daughter's childhood bedtime routine as if it were yesterday. That's not just memory, it's connection. And it means your brain is still actively engaging with the people and world around you. Nancy, for instance, keeps a small notebook by her armchair. In it, she writes down things her grandchildren say, funny words, little questions, even what books they're reading. She says it helps her remember what matters. One day, her grandson asked, "Gran, how you always remember what I love?" And she smiled and said, "Because I'm still listening." That's what mental sharpness looks like. Not just recalling facts, but remembering with heart. Sign number 2, you make thoughtful decisions. You've learned over time that not every decision needs to be made quickly, and the ability to pause, to weigh things, to consider people's feelings, to make thoughtful choices is a true sign of a wise and active mind. Think about how many decisions you've made in the past week. What to eat, who to call, whether to say yes or no to an invitation, how to spend your energy. Each of these decisions requires not just memory, but judgment. And the fact that you're still making choices that reflect your values, your needs, and your priorities, that's mental clarity. Tom, who's 83, recently downsized from a house to an apartment. It wasn't easy, but he made a list of pros and cons, talked it through with his family, and ultimately said, "I want to live with less but feel more." That quiet decision came from a place of strength. Sign number 3, you keep learning. The world is always changing, but the sharpest minds are those that stay curious. It doesn't matter if you're reading history books, watching cooking videos online, or asking your grandson how to use emojis. The act of wanting to know more is a powerful sign that your brain is still forming new connections. Nancy, now 80, recently joined a local art class, something she had never tried before. She said, "I may not be Picasso, but every time I dip my brush in paint, I feel like I'm opening a new part of my brain." That sense of wonder, that childlike curiosity, is a treasure. Your brain is like a garden. The more you plant, the more it blooms. And remember, learning doesn't have to be formal. Listening to someone's story, asking questions, even watching a film that makes you reflect deeply, all of that is learning. Sign number 4, you stay socially engaged. One of the most underrated signs of mental sharpness? Connection. Staying socially engaged requires memory, language, emotional reading, timing, and empathy all at once. When you laugh with a friend, when you ask questions, when you remember someone's birthday, or check in after a loss, you're using complex areas of your brain in meaningful ways. Tom has a standing breakfast with 2 old Army buddies every Saturday. They don't always talk about big things. Sometimes it's just coffee, the crossword, and teasing each other about who forgot what. But those rituals, those interactions, they're powerful mental workouts. Even simple interactions, like sharing a joke with a mail carrier or sending a card, keep the mind active. Loneliness shrinks the brain. Connection expands it. Sign number 5, you can laugh at yourself. Let's be honest, we all have our moments. You walk into a room and forget why you're there. You call your granddaughter by your cat's name. You lose your glasses, and they're sitting right on top of your head. But if you can smile, chuckle, or even laugh out loud at these moments, that's not forgetfulness. That's grace. Nancy once went out wearing 2 different shoes. She didn't realize it until someone pointed it out. Her response? Well, at least I put them on the right feet. That kind of humor, that self-awareness and flexibility, is a sign of mental maturity. You're not just remembering. You're responding in a wise, lighthearted way. And that shows emotional sharpness, which is just as important as memory. Sign number 6, you adapt to change. The world today is not the same as the one you grew up in. Phones are smart. Cars are electric. People order groceries with a tap. And if you found ways to adapt, to learn, to adjust, to stay curious despite the frustration, that's a sign of mental strength. Tom used to do everything by hand. He kept paper bills, maps, handwritten notes. Now, He uses a tablet to check his bank account, track his blood pressure, and even video call his niece in Ireland. He says, "I'm not afraid of new. I'm just slower, but still willing." That willingness, that open mind, is not something everyone has. Many people younger than you resist change. But you've kept up. That's sharpness. It's not about mastering technology. It's about staying willing to learn and evolve. Sign number 7. You reflect with clarity. As you age, life becomes less about achieving and more about understanding. If you find yourself thinking about your past, connecting the dots, making peace with your journey, that's a beautiful, powerful form of mental clarity. Nancy sometimes sits by the window and journals. She writes about her childhood, her marriage, her fears, and the people she's lost. She says it helps her tidy up the mind. Being able to reflect, not just recall, but understand your life, means your mind is still deeply active. You can draw lessons from your experiences. You can guide younger generations. And you can carry your memories not as burdens, but as gifts. Reflection is one of the most meaningful signs of mental sharpness, because only a healthy mind can look inward with compassion and insight. Bonus sign, you still care deeply. Here's one final sign, one that isn't often mentioned. You still care about people, about the world, about making things better. That ability to empathize, to feel, to be moved by kindness or injustice or beauty, that shows a mind that's still richly alive. Tom tears up every time he watches his granddaughter play the violin. Nancy still writes letters to her senator when she sees something unfair. That emotional engagement is not a weakness. It's a mental superpower. Because mental sharpness isn't just logic and memory. It's heart,